go now and try and fetch the websites for this user. So to do that, we're going to need a service, a client service, right? That is going to encapsulate all data access, right? And the reason we want to encapsulate it is because this is not the only component that wants to access user information or website information, right? The website list wants to access it. The website edit component also wants to access data about websites. So instead of encoding logic here to go ahead and go fetch data, right? I'm going to encapsulate all data access to the websites in one single place, in a singleton, so that everybody can use. All right, so we're going to encapsulate that. Let's do that. We want to be able to say, with a user ID, go fetch me those websites. Okay, so let's create the service over here. So let's go to the service, and let's create a service for all website data access. So we'll create a TypeScript. We'll call it website service client.ts. Notice the naming convention, right? It says that this service handles all data access that have to do with website, right? For that data type, just like we did it for user. User encapsulates all the data access that has to do with user, creating users, updating users, deleting users, all the CRUD operations that you can think of would be in the user service client.ts. Same thing for websites. Website service is going to host all data access, creating websites, deleting websites, updating websites, retrieving websites with various criteria, right? In particular, we want to retrieve websites for a particular user. Okay, so let's start. We'll need to export this new class. We'll call it website service client. It's a good name. Okay, and in here, we're going to declare a function that allows us to do that. Right? We'll have a function called find websites for user. Right? That might take as argument a user ID of type string. Okay, right? And in here is where we want to retrieve data from the server. For now, let's return just a hard-coded list of websites. Okay, so let's do that. If we have here constant, actually I think we have websites, don't we? We can just say return websites. Do we have that? Okay, there it is. It's from a mock, right? Which we already have, I believe. There it is, right? It's a list of all the websites. Okay, so for now, let's just keep it this simple. Right? We're going to also make this injectable, so that we can, just like any other service, right? We can pass it as an argument to our constructor wherever we want to use it. So anybody who ever wants to use this service and access and manipulate websites, they just have to ask for it in their constructor. Right? And the framework will pass this singleton. This will be a singleton instance, right? That anybody who wants to use it can just ask for it by name in the constructor. Right? Okay. So since it's injectable, I also need to declare it in my modules so that it is injectable. All right. So here I'll declare it as a website service client. Okay, and hopefully it loaded it. There it is. It's complaining about my quotes, but I'm not going to deal with that now. Now that's been declared as a provider, meaning something that can be injected, right? It can be treated as a singleton instance. I can now go back to my website list component and use that service, right? I'm going to ask for it in my constructor. I'm going to say private website service of type website service clients, website service client, there it is. Okay, which has been loaded, hopefully has been imported. There it's been imported, there it is, very good. I can now, on init, I can do this.websites, which is this one, this variable right here, I can say retrieve it from our service, right? Which would be this website service dot find website for user. Okay, and let's see, supply parameters, website service. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, okay, right. So I'm going to pass in the user ID as an argument right here, and make this a little readable, more readable. There we go. Okay. All right. So if I go back, there it is. Looks like nothing changed, right? Actually, what we could do is just declare this as empty. There's an empty array. There's nothing in it. But nevertheless, if I refresh, this still works, right? Because it's using now the ng on init, and it's fetching it from this service. So I've encapsulated the access to the websites in the service, as opposed to just making our variable equal to this constant, which doesn't buy me much, but at least it gives me that step of being able to now go fetch it from where it actually is, right? It should be on the server, not this hard-coded value on the client. Yes? So it's the beginning, right? Notice that this is working as a synchronous call, right? This is an asynchronous call, not an asynchronous. It's synchronous, right? This function, this left-hand side, when the single JavaScript thread comes in here, right? Execution here waits until this function comes back. Yes, right? It goes into here into the service. The service then, oops. What did I do? Did I paste something? I didn't mean to paste it. Okay. So it jumps in here. It jumps in here and then just returns website. And then execution continues when this function returns. And then it's being assigned to here. Yes? And this works because it's all the components are all executing in the same process. Okay? So it's a normal sequential von Neumann machine, right? That goes from one step to the next step and things work in that way. But now we need to go fetch the data in another process, in some other machine that is running maybe halfway across the world. Yes? So it's more challenging going to fetch data from some other process, right? I cannot use synchronous calls. Instead, we're going to use asynchronous communication, where the single thread cannot wait, right? Because there might be latency, there might be loss in communication, and I cannot risk my single thread just waiting for the server to come back, or not come back at all, right? My thread would be blocked until the server would come back. Make sense? Usually, it comes back just within a couple milliseconds, but who knows, right? So I cannot just wait for the server to just time out, right, until the server decides to come back. All right, so let's rewrite this using asynchronous communication. All right, yes? I'm sorry? Oh, when I declared it as an injectable, right, and you declare it as a provider, right, it becomes a singleton. Yep. It's the same instance used in all components that ask for it by instance. If it's being passed to you as a constructor in the constructor, typically these are all instances, single instances. Yep. Right. Instead of doing website, service, right, and declaring as a new website service client, right? That would not be a singleton, right? It would be instantiating a brand new instance, right? And then I would have to do the same thing in the other component and same thing in the other component, as that's just bad practice, right? You just want one instance. Okay. Okay. All right. So now let's do implement the asynchronous version of this. All right. Okay. Let's do that.